I put up this first slide to show you where I'm coming from, and really the chronology, if you want, whereby my interest was first peaked and how it has progressed. Incidentally, this is what the Earth looks like if you were looking from the moon, and of course, this is like a three-quarter Earth. I call it recruited by ETs because, Carol and I feel we were recruited. We didn't particularly go looking for it. We were recruited and we followed along this path. But so, quite clearly, we are in an environmental crisis, and I'm not going to speak about that very much, but you know that there's climate change that's really serious. We have depletion of resources, our energy, but also our material resources. And besides that, there's violence everywhere. There's poverty, not even so much the poverty in this country, which is enough, but throughout the third world. We are not living on a friendly planet at this moment. And if that's all you knew, you would be maybe hopeless. It doesn't look like a very cheerful outlook. I myself have made a study of the spiritual aspect, and I'll say just a word about it, following the thought of Teilhard deChardin, who was a Catholic priest, paleontologist, who managed to take traditional religious concepts and fit them to an evolutionary point of view. And what for me comes out of it most deeply and most hopefully is that, according to Teilhard and his followers, what is it that's evolving? What's evolving is higher consciousness. That's where evolution is today. And I'll show you a slide about that in a little more detail. So that was the second point. Even though we are in really drastic circumstances, we can be hopeful, because absolutely that higher consciousness is coming. And I don't know where you are, but Carol and I meet with a number of groups, and we see pockets of this basic goodness in people and higher consciousness, spirituality, much more than we ever imagined earlier in our lifetime. So that's really hopeful. However, I have to say that although I certainly believed, and I still believe, that higher consciousness is coming, and when it comes, we will forget our barbaric practices of competing with one another, warring with one another, violence and so on, and we will begin to cooperate and live peacefully, and we will have joy within our heart. That's coming. That's absolutely coming. But my concern was, and still is, when is it going to come? Is it going to be 10 years? Is it going to be 20 years? Is it going to be 50 years? That's too late. We can't wait 50 years. We maybe can't even wait 20 years. So I was teaching things almost with a kind of ambivalence. Because on the one hand, I really believe that this higher consciousness is the future of this planet. And when it comes and when we get there, it's going to be a utopia. But when is it going to be? And then I found out, I became introduced to extraterrestrial intelligence. And for me, the discovery of extraterrestrial intelligence is not about simply, we are not alone in the universe. Okay, that's great. That's an enormous new paradigm. We are not alone. But that's a relatively academic thing. For me, the importance is that this ET technology involves unlimited free energy coming out of the 0.8 energy, electrogravitic propulsion. What we have the potential for from ET technology is solving our problems, climate change, pollution, poverty. When there's unlimited free energy, you can desalinate water, you can reclaim polluted material, you can do almost anything you want if you really have unlimited free energy. And toward the end of the talk, I'll show you some slides about some details on that. That's Teilhard. As you see, 1881 1955. Died the same year as Albert Einstein, and 1955 happened to be my year of graduation from college. I went to Princeton in 1955. Albert Einstein had died just a few months before, so I'd never had a chance to meet him. But Teilhard, as I mentioned, stressed that what is evolving is not simply complexity. Mainstream biology would say, well, what's the point of evolution? Well, you have simple organisms that become more complicated, simple molecules, big molecules, you have communities, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But Teilhard wants to say, to what end? Where are they going? What's all this complexity about? Complexity by itself is nothing particularly to look forward to. It just becomes more complex. He wanted to say, no, there's more to it. What's really evolving is consciousness. And he would insist, now, you know, the terminology is maybe not what we're used to, but he would insist that that consciousness exists at the lowest level, at the level of atoms. After all, how does a hydrogen atom know to meet with an oxygen atom to form water? Well, it's not the kind of intelligent consciousness that we have, obviously, but there's a certain kind of consciousness. That's what he's talking about. And plants know enough to follow the sun, and animals certainly know enough to mate, and so on. And then you get to human beings who have a kind of self-reflective consciousness that is really our glory. That's what's coming, and we're not finished yet. Higher consciousness is still coming from human beings. And when that comes to fruition, we're going to go into a utopian future. That's what I was just talking about.